Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sona, could you get me a bell, please? That would be helpful, thank you. All right, then. Whilst Sona's finding me a bell, I'll just tell you briefly what we're going to do tonight. We're going to do a longer practice, a kindly awareness practice, which is a form of Metta vedana practice, but using breathing as the vehicle and also focusing on how we all have unpleasant vedana that we tend to avoid, try to seek to avoid. Oh, here comes the bell. Lovely, thank you. Thank you very much. We all have unpleasant experience we tend to try to avoid. We all have pleasant experience we tend to cling on to, and we all have neutral experience we tend to zone out around. And so it's a practice where we can universalize what we're doing and find the commonality behind these sort of very primal habits. Because I think quite often we can feel a bit alone. You know, we're sort of working away on our own minds, thinking that our mind is particularly the way it is and everyone else's mind is different. But in this practice, we realize that we've all got pretty much the same minds and the same basic tendencies. So we'll do that. I'll say a little bit more and then we'll do that, you know, probably for a good 40 minutes or so. Then we'll have a little break and then we'll have a just sitting to conclude the evening. So there's this lovely story. I really love this story from a guy called Jeffrey Hopkins, who was the Dalai Lama's translator when he first came to the West. I don't know when that was, maybe back in the 80s or something, when the Dalai Lama first came to the West. Do you know, Nagabodhi?
Would have been before that. He was certainly, I saw him in the 70s.
Okay.
Possibly was around before that.
Yeah. So a long time ago. So you've got this, you know, very highly accomplished Tibetan teacher, his first visit to the West, and he was interviewed at airports and by newspaper journalists. He was, wherever he went, he had people asking him questions about, you know, life and his take on life. And he had one thing to say that he just said all the time. Whatever is asked, he would always have the same answer. Nobody wants to suffer and we all want to be happy. Nobody wants to suffer and we all want to be happy. And this translator guy, Jeffrey Hopkins, it's quite funny the way he writes about it. He'd been to teachings with the Dalai Lama in India that went on for days, you know, incredibly detailed, complex metaphysics and philosophical teachings. And the Dalai Lama comes to the West for the first time where Buddhism isn't known. And he's got one simple message. Nobody wants to suffer. We all want to be happy. And this guy, Jeffrey Hopkins, says he got a bit of doubt. And he was thinking, God, what's wrong with the guy? You know, why is he saying something so basic when he could be giving very, very sort of deep metaphysical answers? But then when he reflected on it more deeply, he realized, oh my gosh, that is actually a very, very profound thing to be saying, that it's giving us the message. I don't know why he felt Westerners particularly needed this, but I'm sure we do particularly need this. But if we lived life knowing that all the behavior of other people is based on those basic drives, that they too are trying to avoid suffering, and they too are trying to be happy. And perhaps the word happy, I always find that a kind of slightly tricky word, because in English it's a bit like happy clappy. I'm sure it's a translation of a subtle word. So maybe we could say we're all trying to be at peace. We're all trying to be satisfied and fulfilled. So we're all trying to avoid suffering, and we're all trying to find happiness, peace, fulfillment. And I found that really helpful to reflect on. I found it helpful reading about it, because I think initially when I read about it, I also thought, what's wrong with the guy? Why is he saying something so basic when he could be saying something so profound? But then when I thought, gosh, imagine if I live my life in the knowledge that even the most annoying people, they're basically just trying to avoid suffering, and they're trying to find peace and happiness. The strategies might not be the strategies I would choose to employ, but they too are on this great endeavor of trying to avoid pain and trying to find happiness and fulfillment. So it's kind of universalizing those very basic drives. And then what happens is we cultivate empathy. You know, we find what we share rather than, we relate to others on the basis of all that we share rather than what is different about us. And I think if we're honest, for most of us, our default setting in life is to default to difference. I'm not exactly sure why we do that, but it seems that most of us, we can feel very separate, very isolated. We're the only one. Everyone else is different to us. So to do this practice, where what we're going to do in this practice is to quite intentionally relate to the other people in the Metta Bhavana on the basis of all that we share as our basic human experience, this kind of deep layer of basic human experience. We've all got vedana arising and passing. We all tend to push away unpleasant vedana. We all tend to cling on to pleasant vedana. And out of that comes all the human woes. That is pretty much what the Buddha said, that all human woe comes from those basic impulses. And everything we're doing on this retreat is about trying to let go of those reactive impulses and find a different way through learning how to be deeply present to ourselves. And then, of course, we can learn how to be deeply present to others. Yeah, and it is very transformative. It's very, very transformative to relate to others as being basically the same rather than as being basically different. And I think most of us, if we're honest, we relate to others as being basically different, and that's very painful. Yeah, it also kind of normalizes one's own habits, and I think that can be helpful. So the way we'll do the practice is initially we'll do it for ourselves, and we'll come into the body and the breathing, and we'll check, are we contracting against anything? Is there any habitual aversion there? If there is, we'll invite in whatever's unpleasant and sit with that with kindness, with care towards ourselves. See if there's anything pleasant, we'll enjoy that and find out what it's like to enjoy pleasure without the tight fist of, I want more, but just to enjoy, let it come, let it go. And the other thing we're going to do in the practice is to allow kindliness to ride the breath. So in the first stage, we'll then be aware on the in-breath. We'll just be aware of everything in us experience. And on the out-breath, we'll allow kindliness to ride the breath and see if we can get a sense of kindness just flowing into our whole being. It doesn't have to be love if that feels too demanding. but care, tenderness, openness, greeting ourselves the way we would naturally greet someone that we loved. Yeah. Second stage, we'll bring to mind a friend, somebody who we've got existing positive feelings, and we're going to reflect this person too has unpleasant vedana. They tend to resist with all the suffering that follows. This person too has pleasant vedana. They tend to cling to with all the suffering that follows. This person too has a longing, deep, deep longing to be free of those reactive impulses and to taste something deep, open, free, spacious, kindly. And then we'll breathe in awareness of them and then breathe out kindness flowing towards them on the breath. I think the great thing about letting kindness ride the breath is it keeps us embodied because the breathing's in the body. And as we've been saying, if you're in with the breath, you're also in the moment. So it keeps it very real. And also one of the really interesting things about if you breathe in something and then if you breathe in awareness of someone and then breathe out kindness, you have to face them. I find this so interesting. You can't sort of breathe something inside on, so those of you familiar with Tonglen, I find that very interesting. That's a meditation practice where you breathe in suffering and breathe out ease. You have to face it. So you have to fully allow this friend into your awareness and breathe them in. Who are you? Hello. And then breathe out this care and kindliness. And then we'll do the same with a neutral person, and we'll do the same with the person we find difficult. And then we'll broaden it out to all beings everywhere. So our leader, you don't need to remember any of that, but just giving you a bit of a sense of it. And of course, as Vishwapani touched on, I think it was last night, the structure of the Metta Bhavana is also dealing with things, something, in this case, it's a person that we like, pleasant, somebody that we're indifferent to, neutral, and then somebody that we find difficult, unpleasant. So again, we're dealing with this range of experience that we've been talking about today and yesterday in terms of vedana, particularly yesterday. And the Buddha's saying, that's where the door to freedom lies, because we all have that which we like, that which we don't like, that which we're indifferent to every single moment of our lives. And we can transform how we relate to that from one of just knee-jerk reactivity to something more spacious and open. And I think it's really interesting and good that we're doing this tonight, because we've been doing such brave practice of being willing to be with ourselves. And this will really help inform our Metta Bhavana, because we'll be more able to be with ourselves and then be with others. Yeah. I often think that this way of practicing that we're doing is the path of the warrior, which is interesting because the practice is quite soft. It's about softening, breathing, releasing, but it's such a brave thing to do, to have the courage to sit with one's human experience in a kind of clean, uncluttered, open way. If you look at people on the planet, most people are turning away all the time. I'm sure we've all turned away all the time in our past. So to have the courage to turn towards life and to let it in is a really magnificent thing, and it's a brave thing. Okay. Before we move into the practice, just an announcement. I'm going to say it now quickly because otherwise I'll forget. We're going to start the mornings at 10:45 rather than 10:30, which will help me a lot. And then we'll finish at 11:45. Is that right? 12:45. Finish at 12:45. So 2-hour session still, but nudging it back 15 minutes. Okay, so if we get ourselves set up for the meditation, again, what's going to help you be open and receptive and present? You could do it lying down, maybe more of a chance of going to sleep, but that's up to you to consider. And if you get really uncomfortable doing the practice, of course, it's fine to move a little bit. You know, what's going to help your mind and your heart and your body stay pliable and flexible? That's the issue, or that's the question. Nagabodhi, would you mind muting yourself?
Sure.
If you can get to the mic. Thank you. Great. Okay, thanks. So let's begin by settling into our position. Perhaps taking a deeper breath in, and on the out breath, coming to rest in this moment. We've never had this moment before. And coming to rest in the body. Can you let the body be held by gravity? And allowing breathing to settle and find its own natural rhythm. Opening phase on the in-breath, subsiding phase on the out-breath. And as some of the other leaders have been beautifully evoking, that as we really give the weight up to the body and we release downwards, there can be an expansion upwards, sideways. The body can get more buoyant. And there can be this lovely kind of lifting on the in-breath, subsiding on the out-breath. But remember, it's completely effortless. We're not doing anything. And I always like to have this sense of the volume of my body opening, expanding in all directions on the in-breath, subsiding on the out-breath. So breathing is in the whole body. I've got a few words from Rabindranath Tagore. I have dipped the vessel of my heart into this silent hour. It is filled with love. I have dipped the vessel of my heart into this silent hour. It is filled with love. Scanning through our awareness and just noticing, is there any contraction, any shutting down, anything we're pushing away? And if there is, let's welcome it in. Let's let it be part of our experience. We can breathe into it on the in-breath and soften the hard edges of aversion with each out-breath. And opening to pleasant experience as well. Maybe some pleasant sensations in the body. Maybe a sense of stillness and quietness. Let this be part of our awareness as well. perhaps a softness, a warmth somewhere in the body. And broadening our awareness to be aware of everything arising and passing. All the different sensations in the body, feelings in the body, breathing, thoughts, emotions, some pleasant, some unpleasant, some dull. Welcoming everything in and letting everything go, moment by moment. On the in-breath, being aware of everything. On the out-breath, allowing a sense of kindness towards ourselves to drench and saturate the whole body, heart, and mind. If we can't feel anything, that's fine. We can be aware of the possibility of just a little bit more tenderness and care towards ourselves being possible. Now staying deeply embodied, awareness of the natural breath and the whole body, this kindly breath. Let's expand the circumference of our awareness and invite a friend into our awareness. Might be somebody we're meeting this week online, maybe someone in the small group, or it might be somebody from your life. Just choosing someone quickly. And letting them into awareness. So we're not going out of ourselves towards the friend, but we're letting the friend come towards us. We're welcoming them into our awareness, into our hearts. And taking our friend in. Let's rest with our shared humanity. We look different, but we can be sure that our friend will have painful experiences they tend to resist, push away, contract against, with all that follows. And they'll have pleasant experience they tend to grasp onto, cling onto, with all that follows. Just like us. And they'll get bored by neutral experience with all that follows, just like us. And they're breathing, just like us. So let's see if we can let go of our views, our opinions about our friend, and receive them in their simple humanity right now. Breathing in awareness of them in their fullness and allowing kindness to flow towards them with each out breath, wishing them well. If you're drifting, then you could focus a little bit more. And if you're straining and forcing, you could back off a little bit, relax a little bit. So we're being deeply receptive and yet curious, interested, engaged in and with this other person. letting the image or the feeling of the friend gently fade. Let's just check in fully with the body again. If you've got any resistance building, any contraction building, any aversion building, you could consider moving the body a little bit, just easing the body a little bit. A few kindly breaths towards ourselves for a few moments. What do we need to be present, engaged, receptive, kindly? When we're ready, we can, once again, staying grounded and centered, we can expand the circumference of our awareness and allow a neutral person into our field of awareness. Let them come towards us. And maybe again choosing someone from this retreat, someone who you've seen as a little box on the screen perhaps, but you haven't connected with yet. Knowing that their life is as dear to them as our life is to ourselves. That they're breathing just like us. They'll have unpleasant experience that they tend to push away, pleasant experience they tend to cling to, neutral experience they ignore, zone out from, distract themselves from. So although the the stories of our lives are unique and different, the basic human experience is so very, very alike. None of us likes to suffer. We all want to be happy. We're all breathing. So let's spend a few moments with this person, vividly taking them in, or getting as vivid a sense of them as we can. What might it be like to be them? They'll long to love and be loved just like us. Breathing in awareness, breathing out kindliness and well-wishing towards them. And now letting the image, the feeling, however we've connected with the neutral person fade. Checking in on ourselves again fully for a moment or two. How's the body? How's your breathing? If you notice any gross or subtle sense of contraction, aversion building, let's just soften around that with kindness. Maybe move the body a little bit if need be. Re-engaging with care towards ourselves. Now, once again, staying grounded and centered, expanding our awareness and allowing someone we find difficult into our field of awareness. Again, it might be somebody on the retreat we notice we've been a bit annoyed by, been a bit reactive towards them perhaps, or maybe somebody in our life. But let's see if we can allow the great wall of our aversion, our dislike, to soften. And to let this person in as a fellow human being, a fellow traveler. Maybe some of the things we dislike about them are their ways of trying to avoid pain and find happiness. So resting with all that we share. Unpleasant experience we tend to resist. Pleasant experience we often cling on to. Neutral experience we circle around in ignorance. And we're both breathing in and out every day of our lives. Seeing if we can soften our views, opinions, judgments in relation to this person and rest with this simple experience of common humanity, all that we share. Breathing in awareness of this person in their humanity and breathing out at least an intention or a possibility of kindness and well-wishing, even if we can't feel it in this moment. Do you need to focus or do you need to relax your effort? And let's allow all 4 people into our field of awareness as we rest here. Ourselves, the friend, the neutral person, and the person we find difficult. Do this however you want. What I find works for me is I imagine us all sitting in a circle. And let's just breathe together for a few moments. The in-breath, the out-breath. Let's see if we can soften our preferences, preferring the pleasant person to the unpleasant person, not being so interested in the neutral person. Let's see if we can have a sense of our common humanity equally. None of us likes to suffer. We all want to be happy. That's the mission that we're all on in our own way. Breathing in awareness of all of us, breathing out kindliness and well-wishing equally to each of us. Letting go of views, opinions, likes, dislikes, judgments, preferences, as best we can. And now expanding our awareness to include everybody here this evening, having a shared experience, even though we're in our own homes in different places, different countries. We're having the shared human experience of resting in commonality, simple breathing, knowing that we all tend to push away pain, and that leads to all kinds of extra suffering. We all tend to cling on to pleasure, which leads to all kinds of extra suffering. And generally, we're not very interested in the neutral, which also leads to all kinds of extra suffering. We're only half awake, only half alive. So let's give one another the gift of imaginative attention. Simply receiving one another into awareness, into kindness, just as we are. Imagine kindness flowing out into each of us, wherever we are with each out-breath, and well-wishing. And allowing this sense to expand on and on and on to all life everywhere. breathing, a longing to avoid suffering and to be happy, at peace, fulfilled. This is what we're all doing in our own ways. So let's rest here in the shared human experience. And all the other creatures as well, of course. The whole world resting in a kindly breath, a caring breath. And bringing the weight of the body to the foreground of awareness. Resting in gravity, breathing in the whole body. Allowing the image, the feeling for others to fade into the background. Still there, but we're bringing the weight of the body to the foreground of awareness. I have dipped the vessel of my heart into this silent hour. It has filled with love. When we're ready, we can begin to move the body a little bit. Stretching if we want to, just really asking yourself what's the body calling for, and if it's possible to give it, then doing so. And making our way back to our computers if we want to. It's 8:20 now, so we won't do another practice, of course. We'll just finish the evening and very soon. But it might be nice just to come together again for a moment. So if you wanted to, you could just put a word or two in the chat to describe what you tasted in that practice. And of course, if you really don't want to do that, that's totally understandable. Because you might just be in a quiet space, non-computer space. But we could just see a few words maybe, if that happens. And then we'll do the transference of merit and self-surrender. Tender, Sandra. A healing warmth that spread throughout my body. It's nice. Gratitude. Understanding. It's interesting. Receptive. Soft expansion. Deep calm connection. Gentleness, connection. I felt connected in that practice. Good. So I think what we'll do is leave it there. So we can just take whatever we've got in touch with into the rest of our evening. And hopefully you'll all have a good night's sleep. That would be nice. I hope you have a good night's sleep. That's a wish for all of us. So let's finish with the transference of merit and self-surrender. And I'll leave a pause after each line so you could recite it yourselves if you want to. May the merit gained in my acting thus go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. My personality throughout my existences, my possessions, and my merit in all three ways. I give up without regard to myself for the benefit of all beings. Just as the earth and other elements are serviceable in many ways to the infinite number of beings inhabiting limitless space, so may I become that which maintains all beings situated throughout space, so long as all have not attained to peace. So, see you all at 10:45 in the morning. And look forward to that. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Great.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Sleep well.
Good night, everybody.
Everybody, yeah, sleep well.
Good night.
Thank you very much.